Good morning, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. For those of you who are joining us for the first time on this chilly morning in the African bush, my name is Jamie, and I have Jean-Dre on camera with me this morning. And we're setting off into the sort of semi-darkness of what promises to be a glorious start to our Sunrise Safari. We are coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands, which all falls under the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And Brent's heading out on Jigger to follow up on shadow sighting. She was seen last night, but because she was seen with her cub, Brent left the sighting, and I don't think anybody got the chance to actually see her. So he's heading off there, and then of course we have the wonderful, most charismatic Stefan out on bushwalk this morning. Oh, it's all happening out here, and you can be a part of it by sending through your questions or comments on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. We of course always love to hear from you. Oof. It's a little bit nippy this morning as we go through some of the dips. Although I'm told it is not all that cold at around 18 degrees centigrade, which is something in Fahrenheit. Hold on. I'll try and stir in the vestiges of my memory. 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, Fahrenheit system still hasn't quite clicked. It's quite a beautiful misty morning. Let's stop for a moment and just look out at the vista that we are as we drive to the east. See all of the mist collecting in the dips. Dips that we shall be traveling through on our way to Cheetah Plains this morning. Been a while since I've been there, so I'm excited for whatever opportunities the Great Plains hold. Oh, good morning, Impala. Also going to go via the eastern boundary of Djuma, just because Brent tells me that he saw Karula crossing into Torchwood yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I assume he was talking about yesterday on his way back from Cheetah Plains. So that's part of the plan this morning. And, oh, it's okay, Wendy. We have Elvis keeping us company as well, Sam's Elvis. Sam is having a well-deserved birthday lie-in this morning. But as we drive along, we drive in the tracks of giants. Sorry, flying leaf there. We were treated last night during Sam's birthday party to the presence of elephants all around the house that we live in, munching away quite happily while we enjoyed the birthday festivities. A truly lovely evening and a great welcome back to being back in the bush. And just to clarify as to where I disappeared off to for the weekend, I made a very short whistle stop to the UK, which was highly entertaining, and I did feel incredibly strange yesterday, having traversed the continents sort of twice in 4 days. But I went across for the honorary graduation that we had in Cambridge. It was a very strange experience because, of course, I haven't actually, just to let you know, I haven't actually earned a master's degree so much as after a certain period of time and without getting arrested or divorced, neither of which I've done, but of course then neither of which they would have known even if I had. Then for some reason my honours degree turns into a master's. So that's where I was. I didn't really, I have to be honest, I didn't really achieve it so much as just get gifted with it. As the warden of the college described it, we were basically freeloaders returning, that was his speech to us, freeloaders returning to claim our MA degrees. But it was a wonderful time to see people that I spent a great deal of time with over 3 years, and then of course came back to South Africa and didn't see again for another 4. It was truly special occasion. I have not yet quite recovered myself though. Now Aaron is saying that it's good to see me again. Thank you very much, Aaron. And that let's go find some hyenas. And I think that will be the plan at some stage in the next few days. We'll try and figure out where those hyenas have gone. By the sounds of it, by the devastating sounds of it, they have shifted across towards Buffelshoek. I doubt it though, somehow. Yeah, Brent said that he saw a very heavily pregnant female. It remains to be seen. I need to follow up on those hyenas and just see exactly what's going on with them. And of course they do move den sites, and it was about time. That being said, they could still be around Aubrey's Road, and we just haven't been lucky with them over the last few days. But I completely agreed, Aaron. I'm dying to see how the little hyenas are doing. And we are due for the next set of cubs, not from the same mothers as our current cubs, but from possibly some of the more, the lower ranking females from the clan. So I think what I will keep doing over the next few weeks is just keep checking the den sites for any sign of them. Even the den sites that we haven't necessarily seen the hyenas at for a while. And just looking around, it's always an interesting thing being absent from the bush, even just for a few days. I can see that the elephants have been hard at work, landscaping the area. We're going to see more and more of that as the drought goes on. My friend Emma sent me a video of the lions where I used to work, drinking from the swimming pool outside her bedroom. So already the animals feeling the impact of the drought. Yes, I think that the plan for this morning will be to check along the eastern boundary, if provided, of course, I can keep my earpiece in. Hold on a second. So one problem with winter, of course, is that I've got 10 million layers. And in fact, I don't think I need the spotlight anymore. I've got 10 million layers, including a scarf. And it's not very conducive to effective cabling. There we go. Seems to be working. I have, of course, abandoned all attempts at a beanie, given that it doesn't really work all that well. And I block out my hearing, A, and B, beanies just for some reason on my head look ridiculous. But thank you all for your warm welcomes back. I'm very happy to be back. I had an absolutely marvelous time, but I was actually, in a way, very excited to return to a little bit of normalcy back in the bush. Normal, of course, for our lives being slightly different to the standard definition of normal. But nevertheless, it is what we know and what we love. Should actually be avoiding all dips. Okay, well, as we head across to Cheetah Plains, there is somebody else who would like to say a very warm good morning to you all. So let's jump onto the back of Jigger and let Brent take you away.
Welcome to the Sunrise Safari. My name is Brent and I got Vim on camera with me, and we're in search of Shadow and her cub. So far, not good news. There's no tracks of her coming out of Hoffman's. We're just doing a little loop around to see if she possibly come out, but at the moment it looks like she might have moved further into Hoffman's. So we're going to go a little bit further, and if we get no sign of her, we're going to go look for something else. What's that in the tree there, man? It's that big marula at the back there. It just looks like a solid silhouette of it. Nah, it's just a bunch of leaves. Okay, so no tracks of her coming out, so we might come check here later on the safari. But we're going to head back towards the northwestern corner and see if the lions might have made an appearance up there. But no sign of a shadow coming out of this corner. But I love these misty mornings. I mean, look at this. Isn't this absolutely exquisite? Low-lying mist. Not too cold, definitely warmer than it was yesterday. Oh. Hyena. Hyena, hyena, hyena. So, Becky would like to know who got the honor of dousing Sam's birthday bucket of water. Well, it was me, Becky, but we didn't use a bucket because it's winter. It'd be a bit nasty to do it in the cold, so we just used a large glass. But you missed the after drive catch-up yesterday, and we doused him live. So you're just double checking there. There's also hyena tracks. Now, we could hear the lions roaring for a lot of last night, but unfortunately they sounded to be exactly where they are, which is still on that buffalo carcass in Chitwa. There's 2 in Kahumas there and 4 Birminghams. So the other 3 lionettes were found in Buffelshoek. So I'm going to go check, and hopefully they might have come back towards the west and towards us. Now, Siberia is asking about any reports of wild dog or wild dog pups. Now, Siberia, interestingly enough, I actually had a really long discussion with my friend Grant, who's the Endangered Wildlife Trust's wild dog coordinator for the Lowveld. And we chatted about the different packs. And the Investec pack is still in the Manuleti. It looks like they're going to den in the exact same spot as last year, the Dixie Koppies. And apparently the Sabi Sands pack has been seen to the west on Ottawa, and it looks like they're going to den on Ottawa. They have denned on Ottawa quite a few times in the last few years. So unfortunately, no wild dog pups in our general vicinity. We're probably only going to see them when they get moving, as we did last year. Something on the road there, yeah?
Yeah.
What is that? Hyena. No. Jackal. It's a jackal. It's running towards us or running away from us? Away. Let's get a bit closer. It looks like a black-backed jackal. And it's running towards us. Oh dear. I hope it's not a domestic dog. It's not. It's a side-striped jackal. See, we don't have to go all the way to Cheetah Plains to find jackal. Oh, he suddenly noticed us. So poor Sam, I know he's been desperately waiting to see a jackal. And here we have one trotting straight at us. They are absolutely gorgeous little predators. You can see that definitive side stripe there, and another one of the diagnostics is the white tip to the tail. So at that. Oh, they're just exquisite. So a true omnivore, the side-striped jackal, just as at home eating insects and fruit as carrion. Actually, in a lot of cases, they eat a lot more fruit and vegetable matter than carrion. Sorry guys, just listening to the Game Drive channel for a second there. Now, the last time I saw jackal was actually with Vim, and we actually saw a bunch of jackal pups as well. And that was on the Arathusa airstrip. So let's see if we can follow this guy for a little bit longer. So side stripes eat quite a lot of sort of termites, grasshoppers, fans of marula fruit and wild cucumber. Of course, it's been a difficult year for fruit. Not much of it about this year. Where are you off to now, Mr. Jagalas? Amazing how it came jogging straight towards us, like saw us, no, let's go back the other way. But still not unrelaxed. I mean, if it was very unrelaxed, it would sprint off, but it's just loping around at a general jackal speed. You hear that, Phil? Yes, and I think it sounds like there's some elephants in the thickets here. And there is an elephant. Just heard the branch breaking. What a lovely way to start the morning with a side-striped jackal. So those elephants in some really thick bush. Try to find some in the open a bit later. And the jackal leaving the road. Looks like he is heading towards Impala Plains. Nope, coming back. Back on the road. Now, side-striped jackal often alarm at leopard and lion, and they have a very distinct alarm call. A very strange sounding alarm call. But I think one of the strangest sightings I've ever heard was actually in the Sabi Sands. We heard the side-striped jackals alarming incessantly. And they did have a den with a couple of little pups in the area, so we assumed there was possibly a big predator around. And we rushed and we were looking, and then we saw the jackal, and they were looking and alarming and alarming and alarming. And then it turned out that there was a massive python about 4 meters long that was eating the pups out of the den, and the side stripes were alarming at the snake. I wonder if this is not one of the pups that we saw on the Arathusa airstrip that has now become independent and is searching for its own little niche in the world. Heck, while we can, we should enjoy the jackal jogging on the road in front of us. We're going to try to stick with it for a while. Jog, 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 jog. think this jackal might jog faster than James. What do you think? Liam?
A little bit.
A little bit faster than James. Definitely think it's got more stamina.
Get longer legs too.
Yeah, longer legs. It's gone off the road. Last time that just sort of zigzagged back on. We used to see a pair on Impala plains quite frequently, but they're still there. Back on the road. Ooh, something interesting to smell there. Oh, and there goes the jackal towards Impala Plains, ducked off. So apparently there's a few requests to see a jackal track. And a jackal track is very, very similar. Let's try and find one in some soft sand. The problem is that this jackal is not walking, it's jogging. So the track is not going to be extremely clear. Oh, I don't know how easy it's going to be to see these tracks. Those up there were the easiest. So as I said, they're not going to be the most clear tracks because the jackal was jogging. Get that there, Liam. There we go. Just move the vehicle a little bit more. Okay. Let's see where Liam is. Yeah, as I said, it's jogging tracks there, so that's probably the best. So not very, very clear. It's pretty much very similar to a domestic dog or a wild dog track, just a bit smaller. And you see the two very sharp claws that lead the front. Those are not the easiest tracks to see because, unfortunately, the jackal was jogging. And it wasn't sort of standing or walking nicely, but a really nice way to start the sunrise safari with an animal we don't see too often, but from one of the small creatures. Let's go to Jamie, who's got the tallest living mammal in the world.
We did have a beautifully clear view of one of Africa's tallest mammals, or the Africa's tallest mammal. In fact, the tallest mammal in the world. There we go. The sentence came out eventually. Unfortunately now, he's decided that he would far rather be feeding off one of those bush willow trees at the back, and we've lost our prime position in which to see him. We've actually been sitting with him for the last 5 or so minutes, just enjoying some of the peaceful time that only a giraffe sighting can actually provide. He went up at one stage to the dry tree, or the dead tree, and started scratching the mangy spot that he has on his forehead. Let's see if I can get a different view of him, a slightly better one that doesn't consist of, it's okay, Wendy, of spots through trees. Let's try this again. Standing by.
Just been happening. I've been listening to all the channels. There's male leopard tracks across into CP around the lodge. And there are also tracks of the Shikankanka around the coral boundary.
Copy that. Thanks very much. Brent just giving me an update on what's happening around Cheetah Plains. Apparently there's leopard tracks wandering about the lodge, as well as cheetah tracks around Nkoro, which of course is the neighbor of Cheetah Plains. So we've got exciting stuff as possibilities for this morning's sightings. Oh, lovely giraffe male, big, beautiful dark bull, has decided to be somewhat camera shy this morning and has in fact pretty much hidden himself behind the leaves. He does give us a wonderful opportunity to watch those nimble lips and tongue work together to wrap around the different leaves of what looks like a knobthorn tree. It's not very pleasant to eat unless you're a giraffe, in which case it is the perfect breakfast. There's horrible hooked, very sharp thorns. Most people living in the bush have experienced their wrath at some point. It's always interesting to watch when people go for their first bushwalk. The guides will deliberately walk into one type of tree in order to avoid the other. And very often I've had guests look at me like I'm ridiculous and try and power through the easiest looking path, only to find themselves thoroughly entangled in either knobthorn or buffalo thorn trees with their hooked and curved thorns. There's a bit of patch mange on his neck. Isn't he beautiful and dark? Very typical of a mature giraffe bull. They do darken with age, as do all giraffe, but it's particularly prevalent in the males. And once they reach their mature age, they become what's known as a stink bull, and they start to secrete a very smelly substance. And it's only when you get right up close and personal with them that you can really smell it. But it smells almost like feces. It's not a very pleasant smell at all. Look at that neck. I think that's just a skin disease, some kind of mange or something similar. Although it does almost look as though there are scars there as well. But I think that's just come from the mange. Giraffe seem to be somewhat susceptible, even more so than the other animals, to different types of skin disease, as well as a variety of the herpes virus that gives them all kinds of polyps on their skin. I haven't seen it that much since I started working in this area. It is very, very common within the population of giraffe in South Africa. And every now and again you just get a glimpse of the bald tips of the ossicones. Good morning, Hayden. How wonderful to have you on the back of our safari vehicle. Hayden, of course, being a much beloved presenter. Hayden, I do hope that you are well wherever you find yourself on this particular morning or afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. You wanted to know what the temperature is this morning. It's not that bad, actually. I'm feeling slightly overdressed now that I've come to a standstill. It's 18 degrees, 64 in Fahrenheit. There you go, I remembered at that time. Nice and warm, really, for a winter's morning. I don't quite know why it's so warm. It's only really in the shallow dips that one really starts to feel the nip of the coming winter. I actually really do feel slightly overdressed. I'm all bundled up. The giraffe, of course, being completely impervious. And a beautiful morning to be out on foot, and since our giraffe hasn't really been terribly cooperative in terms of posing his best side for camera, we're going to head off towards Cheetah Plains, and in the meantime, on this lovely morning to be on foot, Steph is out and he would like to say hello.
Isn't that a wonderful sight? Totally opposite to what we had yesterday, where it was so brilliantly yellow and orange that you couldn't even look at it when it arose. This morning the sun is slightly muted, and it's because it's quite muggy. It's muted and a bit sticky in the air. I almost fell off the termite mound while I was speaking to you. I'm Stefan and you're on the bushwalk this morning with myself and Dave. Well, coming back to that sun, I just have to remark on it. Of course, it's going to get so bright as soon as it gets a little bit higher, but you can see that it's obscured by a band of cloud, and that's because we are in our autumn and there's a whole bunch of cold fronts that are marching towards the southern tip of Africa, and what that does is it pushes a column of air in front of it off of the continent and onto the Indian Ocean, and we get these cloud banks forming as soon as that air meets the cold oceanic air. And that, where you're looking right now, is Mozambique. A little bit underneath that cloud is where the sea is, not too far away from here. Probably about 100 miles if I were to draw a line away from where I'm standing now to where we hit the sea sand. So not too far away. But have a look at that sun. Big red orb. Normally we can't look at it like that. This time of the morning I'm already seeing red spots or yellow spots. Now, why I almost fell off this termite mound is because I'm standing on one of the termite mounds that I really enjoy visiting at this time of the morning. The reason being is that these termites are usually quite active. Not every termite mound is active, but this particular termite mound is very active, and I enjoy coming to this termite mound. And look what we've got here. We've got three things happening over here. One is, because the temperatures are cooling down, the termites are closing up their chimneys. And you can have a look over here at the chimney. This is a chimney. Inside of here there's a chamber, and that chamber is used to collect warm air and expel it from the center of the termite mound. And the reason for that is the termites are farmers. These particular termites are fungus farmers. And they, to grow the best fungus, need to keep their termite mounds at the exact temperature and humidity that's needed for that particular fungus. It's around about 37 degrees centigrade. Now, what that is in 27 degrees centigrade, not 37, 27 degrees centigrade. Now what that is in terms of Fahrenheit, I'm not too sure, but it's probably around 80, somewhere around there, 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and so quite warm in actual fact. What they do is they start to cover it up, and you can see the mud here that they've done last night. This is some mud that they've put here last night. It's actually a mixture of sand, cellulose, and saliva, and that they chew up and they make into a little ball, and each of these little grains is placed here very carefully by a worker caste of termites. So now they're closing it up, and the reason for that is so that they can keep the hot air inside of this, so that they can grow their fungus over winter. But what it is, it's such a hugely awesome column of hot air. This entire basin that I'm feeling here at the moment is just warm air coming out. We're going to try and show it to you, Dave. It's about warmest here. You're going to see the lens fog up quite soon, hopefully. There we go. You can see the lens fog up. That is how much humidity is inside that. And if you had to put your hand here, it's actually the same as putting it in an oven. It's actually quite amazing. Now, another amazing thing, and the third thing that I wanted to show you about this particular termite is we've got a termite hunter that's active here. Termites are the most wonderful source of protein. Birds from all over the world, and I'm talking as far as the eastern side of Russia, come all the way here to South Africa to feast on the termites that we have here. And because of that, you have, well, not only birds, but you also have some spiders that prey on them. And here we have a spider called the daddy long legs spider. It's right there, Dave, at the point of my finger. She has got those long spindly legs so that she can stay out of the reach of those worker termites with their ferocious jaws. You might have seen James sacrifice a finger or two. He quite enjoys sticking his fingers into these termite mounds. I don't. There you go. There she goes there. And you can see that she used those long, spindly legs of hers to stay out of reach, and then she basically drops onto a termite, bites it on top of its head, puts her poison into it, which immobilizes that termite, and then what she does is she lifts herself up off the ground with that termite, so that the soldier termites don't bite her. How fascinating is that? Now, quite often these little daddy long-leg spiders are confused with one of South Africa's most poisonous or most venomous spiders, the violin spider. But the violin spider, they're sedentary and they like to live underneath logs. They're not termite hunting spiders, whereas the daddy longlegs is a termite hunting spider and not dangerous to us at all. Yeah. And that's that for this termite mine. I'm quite happy that we got to show it to you. They will close up this little hole. There's about this much left. They will do that this evening, I have no doubt, and then this termite mound will be closed for us. We won't be able to see inside of it again until the season changes, which will be around about August, I think. August, September, they'll open up this termite mound again. And that's all we've got. So goodbye to you guys. Have a good winter. We'll see you again next season at the end of all the... Now let me try and not fall down here. It's quite a massive termite mound this, I must be honest with you. Mobile Paddy has just asked me a question about how the female, the queen of this termite mound, regulates the amount of castes that there are, the amount of winged alates or reproductive castes, the soldiers, the workers. It's an unknown at the moment, to be quite honest with you. They think it's got something to do with pheromones, although they don't really know. So they might, and I'm talking about they as the academics all over the world have been studying termites for decades at the moment. The books that I have, unfortunately, at my disposal don't say how that's done. All that they do say is that a queen will live for up to 15 years, and in some cases, in some species of termites, up to 25 years old. And she will produce an egg every 3 seconds for her whole life. Can you imagine? Every 3 to 5 seconds, an egg comes out. That egg is pre-programmed to be a caste. That caste will be that for the rest of its life. In other words, a worker termite will never become a soldier, and a soldier will never become a reproductive alate. They are born specific. And for that, they say that termites behave as a super colony. And by super colony, we're looking at bees, wasps, ants, and termites. It means that all the individual members are not seen as an individual, they're seen as a total organism, one organism. So what you're looking at there is the den of one organism, made up of many, many different parts that are individuals. Unlike us, for instance, we've got many, many different parts, but they're all glued together. The termite colony, or an ant's nest, super colony, one organism that's got many individual parts. But have a look how big it is. We're still actually standing on this termite mound, believe it or not, even though we're probably about 15 yards away from it at the moment. I'm going to move to what I think is the extremity of this particular termite mound, and that is here. And I'm going to say why I'm saying this is that hot air that's coming up from that particular termite mound over there is being drawn into this termite mound through these holes. These are the exploration holes. Here we go. These are the exploration holes all over here of this particular termite colony. And what they do is that hot air, the termite mound itself, is actually just a big air conditioning unit. The termite mound itself gathers all that hot metabolic heat, pushes it out that chimney, and it draws the air in through here. And that's how they control their temperature in their termite. But I'm standing at the extremity of this termite mound here, and I'm basing that on the fact that I'm not seeing any more of these exploratory holes here for wood chips. And look how far I am away from this particular termite mound. We are easily, how far do you think there, Dave? I think about 30 yards, 40 yards. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Very, very big machine there. Mother Nature's air conditioner. Now, I know it's taken a bit long to explain termite mounds to you, and because I've taken so long, Jamie is dying to tell you what she's got in front of her.
Welcome back. I'm not Jamie, as you can see, but with me now, and we're on the northern boundary, and there's a very interesting track that has caused me to stop my vehicle. Let's have a look at it there. Now, often when you see something like that, could be where a cat's been lying down. In this case, however, it is not where a cat's been lying down. It's where a medium to large bird, either a francolin or a hornbill, has been having a dust bath. You can just see on the edge there, I think there. I think just looking at the track, I think it's a hornbill who's been having a dust bath here. Now, there's no tracks leading up to it, and that's why it's a bird. It's just landed there and sort of fluffed itself in the sand. There's a couple of different reasons birds dust bath. One of the main reasons is to get rid of ectoparasites, specifically things like mites. And I'm sure it just feels quite nice as well, a little scratcheroo. So we're looking for any sign of big cats possibly moving down from the north. So Tingana crossed, or we think it's Tingana, a male leopard, crossed around Sydney's dam. So we're just checking now if it's come back. And also, 3 of the Nkahuma ladies were at a place called the Nyala Dam, which is about over there, sort of directly opposite Buffalo's Hook Dam. So we're going to see if they've possibly come back to the west. We're just going to go very slowly down the northern boundary, and hopefully something will pop out. You can just see the mist in the valleys as we go forward. What was that, Phil? Is that an impala on the road? Yes, an impala. And a very warm safari live welcome to Sandy, who's in Canada. Sandy would like to know, would a leopard or a lion ever hunt down a jackal? Yes, is the answer, Sandy. And actually, just after I first arrived at Safari Live, unfortunately, it was off air. I was with Brian, and we were with Quarantine, the male leopard, actually very close to where the Juma Dam cam is, but in slightly further to the south. And we had just finished the show, and Quarantine was having a snooze, and we were waiting for one of the landowners from Buffalo's Hook to get there, because if we had just left, he wouldn't have been able to find the leopard. So we're just sitting there. Brian and I were chatting and waiting for the landowner from Buffalo's Hook to arrive. And suddenly you heard this. So I turned on my lights and picked up my spotlight. And there was a little side-striped jackal being chased by 2 hyenas. And this poor jackal got chased right into Quarantine, and he jumped on it and bit it in the middle of the back, and the hyenas chased him. So this poor jackal was half alive with a broken back. So its front legs were working, but its back legs weren't. And so this poor jackal was sitting there going, "Nyeh." And eventually the hyenas, after chasing Quarantine up a tree, came back and ate the jackal. So they do, and we've actually seen it here on Juma. And quite a long time after that, Jamie was walking around that area, and she actually found the front part of the upper jaw, so the nose section with the canines of the jackal we saw, or Brian and I saw, being killed by Quarantine. Now, this is the first spot we ever saw Tsakani, the female leopard, so maybe she's about. I haven't seen her since I've been back from leave. Only had a very the only leopard sighting we had is a very brief view of shadow in the tree yesterday, and I just saw the movement of the cub at the bottom, prompting me to leave the area because it was getting dark. So Jim Butler, who's done quite a few visits to the Kruger National Park, has said he's seen quite a few black-backed jackal, but never a side stripe. What is the ratio? Jim, to have an exact ratio, I would be lying if I tried to guess. Side stripes prefer the type of bush we're in up here, and this is what we call broad-leaved woodland. Black-backs you're going to find more often on open grasslands, around watercourses. The side stripe are less dependent on water because they do eat a lot of fruits. So this is very good side stripe jackal territory. They do also like a good open area, but they are less likely to be found on vast open areas. So it all depends whereabouts in Kruger you've been. They also, side stripes are very fond of Mopani Veld. So if you're in the south and central areas, you're going to see more black-backed jackals, specifically around Satara and areas like that. But if you head north, sort of north of Shingredzi, up towards Pafuri, although on the Luvuvu River itself, you're going to see black-back, but just back from there in the woodlands, you're not going to see them. So hey guys, game drive quickly. Morning orbs, nothing for Buatela. I heard on Eastern Channel there was, in Konzo, I think they might have located Wanuna Ingwe on CP and Dao, and in Konzo Shikankank in Koro CP boundary. Copy orbs. I'm doing Professor Kari Katlan from Sydney's. Just so spectacular in the mornings now. VM's already said we've got to try avoid these areas on these cold mornings. So we're definitely not going to be driving twin dams. At the bottom, you can actually feel the temperature drop as we get lower and lower. And it's really cold in the bottom. But fortunately, we're not hanging around at the bottom for too long. And we're going up where it's warmer. So, Rachel's wondering, do the side-striped and black-backed jackal have similar calls? Not at all. A side-stripe is far more silent than a black-backed. Black-backed quite often like to call early mornings, early evenings, and it's actually a spectacularly beautiful, haunting call. I'll try to do it for you. It's probably not going to be the best version, but it's sort of side-stripe are almost always silent unless they're alarm calling. What did you spot at Graham? Graham looks like he saw something. He got excited there. Across the road? In the middle of the road. Let's have a look. Graham thinks he might have spotted some leopard tracks while I was making silly noises. So while we try to figure out what tracks Graham spotted, let's go see what Steph's up to on Shank's pony.
Now, I'm constantly amazed at the smaller things here in the bush. And one of the things that has been outstanding this year has been the spiders. Now, while we haven't seen too many spiders, the huge variety of spiders that we've been seeing has been something phenomenal on this bushwalk, to be quite honest. Right here, we have an orb spider that has managed to catch a fly, but you can't see that from that angle. But what you can see is this beautiful orb spider here. And another thing that you might be able to see from where you are is the fact that her web is almost invisible. And that to me shows that she's done the most superb job. And this all from an insect or an organism that doesn't have even a rudimentary brain. They've got a collection, a little clump of cells that people call a brain, but it's just really a clump of cells. And what this spider has managed to do is figure out general wind direction. And when she built her web, she was able to build her web perpendicular to the wind direction. And flies, which will probably be her major source of food here, because her web is very delicate, flies would then fly with the wind, making through this gap. The fly didn't want to get here. They don't want to land on these branches, because these branches are full of very camouflaged predators, things like praying mantises. What this fly did was come through this gap, staying away from the sticks, and get caught by this invisible web. And this beautiful orb web spider that's living inside of this web. Dave, how are the colors looking on her from that side? We've got a misty morning this morning, and so we haven't got too much light to play with. But she's actually quite a pretty lady. She's just finished her fly, or she's repositioning for her fly at least anyway. Right. There we go. So there we've got a nice show for you now. You can see her using her fly and her beautiful patterns on the ventral side of this orb web spider with her legs. And I've actually got an opinion on this spider. We're seeing quite a lot of orb web spiders. Some of them have larders in the middle of their webs, and things like the garden orb spiders have this stabilimentum, which I'm sure if you've watched the show for a long time you've seen. This particular spider has these zebra striped legs. Now, contrasting colors in the insect world are a warning. You see these zebra striped legs? I think that she's holding her legs out of her abdomen like that as a warning to bigger insects or potentially even birds. They would veer away from seeing that bright color, that brightly contrasting color. That would stick out like a signboard. They'd veer away and not take her out in the middle of her web. But it didn't work for the fly, and the reason for that is that a fly would have just avoided it and gotten stuck in the web on either side. And this is the extent of her orb web here. It's quite big. It's probably about as big as my hand. I'm going to put my hand there. That's the extent, just a little bit bigger, of her orb. And she's tiny. There's my thumbnail, and I don't have the world's biggest hands, and you can see she's probably half the size of my thumbnail. Legs outstretched, probably just a little bit bigger. And there, in between this, she's managed to catch a fly. Ooh. James, you've asked me a good question here, man. How many times will a spider in its lifetime shed its skin? James, to be honest with you, I don't think that there is actually a number, a specific number. Spiders will shed their skin when they get too big for their previous one. And that, in my opinion, would be temperature and food dependent. So temperature and food dependent will determine the size of the spider, and that will determine how many times they lose their or shed their skin and get a little bit bigger. As to a minimum amount of times, I'm unable to tell you at this particular moment in time. I don't have my spider encyclopedia with me at the moment, but that was a very good question, and well done. All right, I think we're going to move on from this beautifully colored little orb spider eating her fly breakfast. Oh, I want to try one more thing, Dave. How tight can you get on these, using the mist on these radial strands? We're just going to try something here, guys. What we're going to try and do is the mist has just caught on the sticky strands around this particular spider. Dave, what I'll do is I'll put my grass there so that you can see. And hopefully with this amazing camera that we've got, you can actually see the little glue globules on the sticky radial strands of her web. So I can't see it with my naked eye, and that is one of these things with this bushwalk camera that's just so fantastic, is that you can perhaps see the little globules of sticky glue that this spider will have put at intervals on these radial things, and that would have entrapped that fly. Get it? Sort of. Well, David's doing an amazing job at trying to get it. I may have sold him down the road with that one there. So Ellen, all the way from Arkansas, and I suppose Ellen, you've been wanting to ask this question about, is the bushes damp and wet from humidity and moisture this morning, and will that do something to the animal movement? Yes, I would say it is. These bushes are pretty wet at the moment. They're not running with water, but as you can see there, they definitely have some moisture on them. And that will not hamper animals too much, to be quite honest with you, Ellen. It's not going to slow them down. It's not a particularly cold morning. It's not a particularly wet morning. It's also not a particularly humid morning, although it's quite damp. There's a bit of a mist in the air. It's going to do nothing to the animals, in my opinion, this morning. It might make it a bit, it might take a bit longer for animals to, or for insects to get going this morning. Oh, my grandpa hip at one. I'm getting as bad as Brent with my sore legs at the moment. What it might do is the cold-blooded animals, it might make them take slightly longer to get going this morning, but I don't think on larger animals anyway, I don't think it'll have too much of a hamper. But anyway, we are heading into a block today that we hardly ever walk. For some reason, we either go north or south of it. In actual fact, apart from where we are standing now, I haven't even crossed through this area on foot yet. And I'm looking forward to exploring this drainage line with you a little bit closer. We've already heard elephant trumpeting not too far in front of us. And hopefully, while we explore here and try and bring out more little treasures for you, we can see one of those as well. But Jamie's got an update for you, and we'll catch you up a little bit later.
Well, we've arrived at Cheetah Plains after a somewhat chilly race along the road. And every now and again, if you see Jandre giving the screen a quick wipe, it's just because it's a somewhat misty morning this morning, which keeps filtering through onto the lens. I've come through, I found the leopard tracks going straight into the lodge. Unfortunately, it seems as though I don't have any vehicle signal there. So I'll keep you updated on that. Big male leopard, I would guess at either Tingano or Vula, or maybe, you never know, one of the other larger males, but whichever leopard it was has considerably large feet. Wandered across, quite possibly right past the guest rooms whilst they slept last night, which is always an exciting thing, especially for South Africa, to have a leopard maybe even sawing outside their bedroom window, which is a wonderful experience. And unfortunately, our cheetah decided to go north into Nkoro and around that area. But I'm still hopeful, because you never know, they might have decided to change direction and come back to the south. We know how much they enjoy the clearings, so we'll go and see if there's any sign of them coming through that way. It's interesting. All right, this is something I've just noticed. Spotted hyenas typically mark regularly used pathways with latrines. In other words, they defecate in the same place multiple times and on multiple occasions. And I'm just looking here, I'm seeing a great deal of white hyena scat. White, of course, because of the high levels of calcium in their diet. But it's not just one pile. There are several piles of hyena scat out here. Typically, they don't use latrines, or hyenas don't just use latrines to delineate boundaries, but that can be quite a good indication that this is the area that they have either used regularly as a pathway, or that they are going to delineate as a boundary. See, all different ages. That particular one Jandre is showing you at the moment is faded and crumbled. It's been trodden on by something moving through. or just slowly broken apart with age. It's interesting, they've done a great deal of research into the way in which hyenas use latrines in their day-to-day movements, and basically, particularly in areas like the desert areas, where the territories or the home ranges of a hyena are absolutely enormous. It's very interesting the way that they sort of have pathways radiating out from the main den sites, all with regular latrines along the way, and latrines becoming more and more concentrated towards den sites. Now, as far as we know, and as far as anybody knows, there are no den sites on cheetah plains. Doesn't mean they haven't been in the past, and it doesn't mean that this is one of the main pathways of at least one of the hyena clans. Should we go over there and just get an update from, who's this? Ephraim. Morning! Good, and you? Sorry everybody, didn't mean to shout at you. I'm just saying hello to Ephraim. Hi guys.
Hello. Where's the animals? Nothing.
I don't know.
No,
They're too cold. They're sheltering somewhere. I haven't seen anything this morning, just some deka. The Monona Ingwe tracks, I don't know, I couldn't follow up. We've got no signal here. But I saw them going straight towards the lodge.
You can improve the signal.
Yeah, we can't go there, so I can't follow up. But there's,
I'll go around this way.
yeah, go maybe popped out on the other side of the lodge.
Yeah, I know, like the most likely go like in Aneti, Malamala.
Yeah, and then the Skankank apparently north into Nkoro.
We see this track like yesterday.
Okay.
Was getting in Nkoro. I think the guys in Nkoro even see it like yesterday.
Okay. Alright, sorry if no updates for you this morning.
No problem.
It's okay, I'll go find you in Ingwe now.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheers guys. Sorry about that everyone, just having a useful communication between myself and Ephraim of Cheetah Plains, just to divide our time and our resources. He's going to go and see if he can follow up on that leopard, although he thinks that the leopard has already crossed towards Mala Mala. And we were speaking a little bit about that particular midden or latrine of the hyenas. And Murphy, you were wondering, in a case where a lion is a hyena den, would they stake it out in order to essentially, what would be the word, to streamline the process of removing competition, if I could say that like that. Of course, hyenas and whenever they have the opportunity to come into, or generally they'll avoid conflict with each other, but if they do, lions will go out of their way, particularly young males, to kill them if they can catch them. Depends how much energy they want to expend in doing so, but no, lions won't stake out a hyena den. They can't really afford the resources or the waste of time, to be completely honest. They might set up shop for a while, especially, as I said, with young males. There's a degree of curiosity to their movements and the way in which they interact with their world. So I've seen young males hunt lions, hunt rhino before, with no real chance of success, just as a way of experimentation. And I've seen young males go out of their way to chase leopards, and we've just got the most, oh no, don't go away. One's gone, but the other is gone too. It was a gorgeous pair of African hawk eagles that had settled in that dead tree. They're one of my absolute, hands down, favorite raptor species. You always see them in pairs, specialized in hunting in pairs, with one flying higher and one lower. Ambush predators are sort of specializing in guinea fowl and other franklins and spur fowls, sort of large size game birds. Oh, but we've got a lovely bachelor herd of impala that's just wandered through. Hello boys, how's the rutting season treating you? Apparently not terribly well. Let's go forward a bit, they might decide to spar. The Murphy, just to finish off with your question, generally no. A lion will not waste the time or the energy staking out a hyena den, waiting for the cubs to emerge. And bear in mind that hyenas are not without resources as well. And generally speaking, no animal out here wants to risk or run the risk of an injury, because even the smallest injury can make the difference between life and death out here. And hyena clans is not without resources. So the females, if that were to happen, I'm not saying that it's likely, but if that were to happen, the females could well call upon the, there we go, oh, very lazy, somewhat almost absent-minded sparring. Yes, the hyenas could actually call each other and gang up on said lions. So lions are not really going to take that risk. As we watch the impala disappear off into the bush, we're going to head across to the great open area of cheetah plains. While we do that, let's head across and have a look at some insects that Steph has found on his bushwalk.
Well, you know, this little drainage line that we're discovering at the moment is all just so full of surprises at the moment. Dave's just getting caught up in a wait a bit bush. But have a look at this wonderful, wonderful sight here. This is actually a full-grown grasshopper pair. There's a male and a female here. The top one is the female, she's the bigger one. The bottom, more colorful one, is the male. And they were relaxing here on this branch, very camouflaged. The reason why they're very camouflaged is that grasshoppers are daytime animals, and at nighttime they sleep. And at nighttime, there's a whole different set of insects that come out and play. And by standing very still, by being as camouflaged as possible, these grasshoppers stand the best chance of survival. When it's daytime and they can see what they're doing, they can use those massive legs that they've got there to jump away from danger. But at night time they use their camouflage and the fact that they're very still. Now the reason why male and female are together is because they've probably been mating with each other yesterday. End of the season, the female will then go and lay an egg sac with some eggs in it, and they will hatch out when it becomes spring again. For now, these two are just played out a little courtship with one another. But what I did want to show you was the fact that even though they're so small, and I mean you can see how small they are, I'll put my baby finger next to them. The female is no bigger than my baby thumbnail, or my baby finger's nail. They, nonetheless, one of the most beautifully colored grasshoppers. She's bigger, he's smaller, but infinitely more brightly colored, and I think that's because he needs to be more attractive. She's bigger, she needs to stay hidden, and she will use song and pheromone to attract him. He will use his ingenuity not to get eaten, and then show off his bright colors. Right, we've got some elephants trumpeting around us at the moment. They're probably about 50 or 60 meters away, and trumpeting. They found something there. And I want to go and have a look at what they're finding. So we're going to carry on with this little game path that we're on at the moment. We're going to be cautiously heading towards where these elephants are making a noise. I do know this area a little bit. There are some big termite mounds we can use as cover. Hopefully when we get to wherever they are, there are some big termite mounds for us to use as cover. Sounds like a herd. Yeah, we'll take it as it comes. Let's go and have a look. As I mentioned, we don't really know this particular patch of bush. Watch out for the thorns there, Dave. I know what roads are on either side of it. We don't actually know what's right here. That's what makes these little journeys of discovery so nice. The two roads that we're between at the moment are Zoe's Road and Quarantine. One of the roads that ring quarantine. So we're not too far away from camp. But as I mentioned, for some reason we hardly ever walk here. Dave giving the camera a bit of a shake because he thorned himself. He's now expressing much blood out of his arm. And I'll show you what Dave hooked himself on. Have a look at this. This is a black monkey thorn acacia, and hidden in these leaves are a bunch of viciously hooked thorns. Have a look at that. The thorns themselves are not designed solely so that Dave can bleed all over the place. They're made so that animals can stop stripping the leaves off of the branch. So they're made to snag lips and to prohibit animals' browsers predominantly from putting their mouth over a stick and then just sort of doing this and going and snagging it. I'm not going to do that with you. I don't feel like bleeding this morning, but yeah, that's it. Black monkey thorn. Alright, we are going to need to link away from you while we see what's happening with these elephant. We're going to need to have a little bit of stealth, but while we do that, we'll come back to you hopefully with a surprise down the tubes.
So we are now on the eastern edge of our traverse area, and we're hoping for any tracks of any big cat. So far, unfortunately, nada. But it is a beautiful morning. It's gorgeous light around us, and we're just hoping to put a leopard in this gorgeous light. But it helps if we've got a track to follow. So we're just really enjoying the morning so far. It is wonderful to be out in the early morning. It is definitely, I think, my favorite time of the day. To be cruising the bushveld. So, Mobile Paddy would like to know which endangered species in the Kruger gets the least attention. And it's a very interesting question. So obviously, a lot of your sexy species, cheetah, wild dog, get quite a bit of attention. But I think, maybe roan antelope. What do you think, Sam? The endangered species from the Kruger that gets the least attention. Although roan gets quite a bit of attention. Roan antelope, I would think, maybe. Or the Lobombo flat lizard. Only occurs on a few granite koppies on the eastern boundary of Kruger with Mozambique. It's a tiny little lizard with a red head. And that is, well, I suppose it's not really endangered, it's endemic, so it only occurs there because the habitat is only perfect in those sort of 5 or 6 spots. But out of the bigger stuff, I'd say probably roan antelope or sesame antelope. Sesame are endangered in South Africa, but by no means endangered further north. They're actually quite common. So that's a local thing. It's not ideal sesame country, that's why. It's also not ideal roan or sable country. Can you think of anything else endangered, Liam? Animal in the Kruger? You'll probably find there's some tiny mouse that only lives in one patch of Mapani fault. That's probably the one that gets the least attention. But, or some insect, there we go. Ah, I know. The spotted killifish only occurs in 3 pans on the Mozambique border. And very few people even know it exists. Very beautiful little fish that has a very short life cycle, and it only lives in temporary pans. And they occur throughout Africa, but they're very specific And one of the reasons they're endangered is because of the pet trade. Everyone likes to keep killifish in their aquariums. So I think that's probably the one that garners the least attention, the spotted killifish. I was lucky enough when I lived in the Kruger to get special permission from the section ranger of the area I was living in to go into the Pumbe sandveld. And most of that sandveld is in Mozambique, but there is a little bit in Kruger. And a friend of mine and myself, we got permission to go up there and go hunt for killifish. And we actually managed to catch 2 in the Pumbe pan. And that is the best place to see killifish. But very, very interesting little creatures. And very specific life cycle that's to do with the rains. And their eggs can actually lie dormant for 5, 6, 7 years if there's no rain. I think out of all the killifish, and most of them are endangered, my favorite killifish actually lives in Zambia on the Kafue Flats. And they are very specific that they almost always have to live in an elephant footprint that's been filled with water on this vast floodplain. That's their little niche, and the Kafue killifish. Very cool creatures. I, of course, caught, photographed, looked at, and then released. The killifish I've seen. So while we continue to check for any sign of big cats, I think let's head back to Steph, who's on foot.
While we're busy sneaking up on what sounds like a herd of elephants that's busy surrounding us at the moment, I don't know, they're 100 or 200 meters away from us, but yet while we're doing it, have a look at this absolutely fantastic sight. This is an elephant that's decided that he wanted to eat the very top leaf of this tree and has pushed it down, and pushed it down with all its sand and everything still attached. And it gives us the wonderful opportunity of seeing how epic it is, and the scale that these animals can change their habitat at is just absolutely astounding. You can see here how they've ripped the ground out, the roots have been ripped out, and how it's taken the tree and the sand and everything with it. The elephant then would have moved around the tree and would have eaten some of the leaves on the other side, and thus forcing leaf cover that would be out of the reach of basically anything else back into its reach, and creating a seed bed for grasses and for other things that are underneath it. Isn't that wonderful? All right. And then after we've, while we still carry on looking for these ellies, we're going to send you back through to Jamie.
Mobile Paddy, I was actually thinking about the answer to your question about the most endangered animal that probably gets the least attention. And it's a really good one, and I think the answer of roan is a very, very interesting one, as well as the fish. And of course there's all kinds of species that get overlooked in favor of the big hairies and scaries, so to speak. And speaking of big hairies and scaries, I just came upon very, very fresh leopard tracks. Female leopard, not the male that I mentioned earlier. So it seems as though Inkanyeni is somewhere in this vicinity. So keep your eyes peeled, because they were that crisp, shiny, fresh track look of pug marks left by a leopard wandering down sometime in the last, if I had to guess, I'd say the last 2 hours. Total guess, absolute guess. She's gone off the road. I can't stop to show you her tracks now. Much bigger feet. I don't know if it's in Kanyeni, by the way. It's a female leopard. Bigger feet than Karula, just judging by the size. And she's here somewhere. The question is, was she on a mission? She didn't look like she was hunting, just judging by the way that she was walking in the road. walking with purpose, striding with purpose, I think. So I've picked the general direction just to see if she hasn't come out at one of the watering holes. If she hasn't, then I'll jump off and I'll go for a bit of a walk. We're just that little bit too far behind, not too far behind them, we're just that little bit far behind them that I want to make sure that she hasn't come back out into the road before I go walking through the block. Now that is exciting. I've never seen Inkanyeni. It would be something that I would eagerly anticipate. I wonder where she would be. Inkanyeni's also got 2 cubs with her that are now, they must be about 4.5, coming up to 5 months old. I also haven't seen them just yet. And I have seen pictures of them. They do look like very interesting little characters. Brent tells me that the male is very bold and very curious. She's somewhere here. She might even be on her way to fetch the cubs and to take them to a kill. Well, since I haven't found any sign of her coming out here, and we're coming up to the water hole, let's just see if there's anything on the open plains. Doesn't look like it. Alright, I'm going to send you over to Bushwalk so that I can double check from where I last saw those tracks. I'll catch up with you soon.
Now, what this butterfly is, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm not as good as Brent is with these butterflies. But what is immediately apparent on this wonderfully colored butterfly is the fact that it's trying to deceive predators. It has 2 ends. This is its real head here, with this quite funny clubbed antennae at the end of the grass there. And then on the other end, it has additions to its wings that allow it to have a second pair of antennae and almost a second face. Its abdomen is colored, or the back end of its abdomen is colored exactly the same color as what its face is, which gives this particular butterfly 2 heads. And that means that animals that want to sneak up from this butterfly from behind, predators that will be using cover from behind, would be scared. Now, similarly, human beings have done that before. I remember a wonderful story as a child, growing up listening to stories of Indian tigers and about man-tiger conflicts, where people used to walk through the forest with a mask on the back of their head to make it look like they had a face on the back of their head. And this would deter tigers from jumping out of the undergrowth and biting them. And when I look at a wonderful example of this, I don't even know what the phenomenon is called, but this pseudo head that this particular butterfly has got, and just what it's trying to accomplish, to me is just absolutely fascinating. You can see, while we just reposition slightly, how there's the pseudo antennae and the pseudo face, and on this side is his real face. Now what this butterfly is doing is positioning itself perpendicular to the sun and warming up the fluid in its wings, which is then pumped into its body and will then raise its metabolic rate and its temperature to one where it can start flying around. Now, early morning is not really a good time for butterflies out here, but when we go running in our afternoons, mostly around about 12, 1 o'clock, these fields are just full of butterflies. Isn't that wonderful? Looks nice, eh, Dave?
Yes.
And of course, where you are with this camera, you can get so super tight with so much detail on these things. It's just crazy. I have to get on my hands and knees and really get my eyeball right up to a thing before it sees the detail that you see. Now, we are looking for some elephant that are in the vicinity. They've stopped trumpeting, which makes it quite difficult to try and place them. The last time we heard them, they were off in this direction, running away, what sounds like running away from something. Behind us, I have heard the cracking of a branch, and off to my left-hand side, on this side, we've also heard some tummy grumbles or some vocalizations from the lower end of the elephant spectrum. So I think that there's possibly a split herd here, or there were two herds that came together and they've been running around in the melee trying to separate themselves. And so what was quite nice, we were standing here listening to this. That's our number one asset when we're on a bushwalk, is to listen to the bush and use these massive kudu ears that I was blessed with to great effect here in the bush to try and listen around us. And then we will use our sight and we'll use all our skills. But for me, the number one thing in the bush is my ears. And like I said, luckily I was blessed with a proper pair of them. Right, we're in a seepline area where we are now, and as you no doubt would have heard my colleagues, my very knowledgeable colleagues, tell you from time to time, this is an area that's waterlogged, and that's allowed no trees to germinate, and that's allowed this meadow to basically come about, and that's why it gives it this nice sort of parkland look. And I find it quite appealing, this type of bush. This meadow parkland created by waterlogged soil from seeplines that lie underneath our feet. But on that note, we're going to send you through to Brent. Keep on looking for these elephant.
Welcome. So, no one has been able to find crawly, so Liam and I have decided to come check very carefully along the southern boundary. We're also going to go still check for shadow again, but one of the more annoying tracks when you are looking for leopard is this track. You got it there, Jim? There it is. Now, the front part always almost looks like a cat track. You have to go on to the right a bit. Let me see where you are. Oh, there we go. So when you're driving, it quite often looks, you just see the front foot there, and it's about the right size for a leopard. It looks like a leopard, but it's not. It's a knuckle. And there we have the back track, and you can even see the thumb sticking out there.
Losing your mic.
A baboon track. Sorry?
I'm losing your mic.
Losing mic. Turn around. So it's a baboon track. There's the thumb. There's that. And that there that looks very similar to a leopard track is those front knuckles of a baboon. So we have been seeing a lot of baboon tracks. I just wanted to have a look at another track over here. Baboons, 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 baboons. Baby baboon, big baboon. Baby baboon, big baboon. Annoying primates. Especially when you're trying to find leopards. What do you spotted, Jim?
Sunbathing squirrel.
A sunbathing squirrel. Where are we looking now? Trying to see. Oh, there we go. Well done. Now, we're going to find quite a few animals that bask at the moment. Squirrels, monkeys. They don't like the cold. They definitely like to sit in the sun. Oh, he's going upside down. Incredibly acrobatic creatures. Now, they do have quite long claws that enable them to grip onto branches of the trees. Whoa! Excuse me. Whoa! So will I try to get over my bout of sneezes? Let's go see what Jamie's got on cheetah plains.
Poor Brent has got hay fever apparently, and also the cold that he seems to have picked up, the poor thing. We're currently sitting with a herd of wildebeest on the great open plain, the cheetah plains. And I just heard a zebra yipping, so bear with me 1 second because I want to try and see what's happening on the other side of our boundary towards Mala Mala. It sounded more like an internal skirmish more than anything else. Oh! The wildebeest, it's amazing to watch them. Sorry, I'm distracted now because they are now stampeding across the clearings. It's amazing watching. I actually really love spending time with wildebeest just because they are or can be so incredibly playful. And now, of course, is the wildebeest rutting period as well. Here you go, there's that strange zebra sound. What are you shouting about, zebra? What's the matter? I think it's the male just making a noise, announcing his superiority to the world. They don't look like they're coming into any conflict with each other. Probably on their way to come and have a drink at the dam. All steering off though. What I was going to say is that the hormones from the rutting season for the wildebeest also impact on the calves. It makes them, and the females like these two, and it does produce make for some very interesting animal behavior viewing. The females tend to headbutt, the calves try to imitate adult behavior by mock mounting. It's more a dominant for them, of course, more a dominant display than anything else since they haven't reached sexual maturity. But it does make them highly entertaining to watch. Let's try and reposition. Ooh. So that you can see the one that's now lying in the grass. The last time I saw these wildebeest was with Dave on Cheetah Plains a little while ago, and the cheetah were hunting them. The most incredible sighting. Watching the cheetah stalk forward in the sort of slowly disappearing light of the afternoon. All of them made it and seemed to be present and accounted for. And they've got a pretty sweet deal out here in this clearing. Nice open space. They can see threats coming from a long way away, as was demonstrated with those cheetah. And that combined with the fact that they, as ruminants, can actually utilize relatively it's unpalatable grasses. So because they digest essentially 4 times through 4 different stomachs, or at least pass the food through 4 different stomachs, they do take as much of the nutrients out of their food as possible. They've got water, they've got food, and they've got wide open space. Now, as antelope go, the wildebeest are one of the fastest of all of them. They're capable of tremendous bursts of speed, but they're also capable of incredible stamina at the same time. They're related to the tsessebe, which is the fastest antelope out here, all part of the hartebeest family. Those sloping shoulders, at least sloping back, and very powerful shoulders make for an incredibly athletic animal. And they can sustain periods for much longer than the cheetah, leopard or lion could do. Unless those big cats manage to get right up close to them for that surprise burst of speed, chances are, and the wildebeest know this, that they will be able to outrun any kind of attack from a far distance. One of the big reasons why they like to hang out in this area. Jandra and I were just talking about the fact that once the rains come and the grasses grow, this is going to be a stunning place to sit and watch elephant as well. Not often we get to see ellies right out in the open. couple of females with very round bellies. I'm not sure if any of you have noticed that back at home. It is not possible for them to be pregnant. I'm not sure if it's maybe some kind of worms, digestive problems maybe just a parasite. There are definitely some with far rounder bellies than others, or maybe just it's the older females that have herniated their stomach lining, making them bulge a little bit after having several calves throughout the years. Ooh. Ooh. Once knew a wonderful guide who loved to imitate that call. He was a Zulu man called, we used to call him Tokozan or Toko, and he used to imitate that wildebeest, and he would sit and very seriously contemplate a wildebeest herd for a good few minutes in absolute silence, leaving his guests completely confused and bewildered in the back. And then he'd start to make this call, and eventually he did it so well that he'd get the wildebeest to sort of start snorting and come up curiously to see if it was another wildebeest that just looked a little bit odd. Because of course, they're not really the smartest animals in the bunch. They are, however, highly entertaining. But I do miss that constant I can't do it. I cannot imitate that wildebeest sound. I don't know about you, Chandra. No. We need Brian. We need Brian to do his animal imitations. But Toko also used to do a brilliant wildebeest imitation. Oh, here come our zebra. Slowly but surely. And almost inevitably, if it is the standard herd structure, with the female in front. Now, Malik, watching in Texas, apparently while you were watching the zebra, you saw something else move in the distance, and you were wondering if we could take another look since it might be a predator. I also saw something move, and I examined it with my binoculars. There were other zebra out further on the plain. And Malik, while I've been talking to you about the wildebeest, I've actually been scouring the clearing to see if I could locate what movement caught my eye. I haven't picked up on anything. It could, of course, be a jackal. They do love this area. But I think it might have been a zebra. And I can actually, in far, far away, basically halfway towards Cape Town, there are zebra moving at the back. It's a slight exaggeration, obviously. But right at the back, there are zebra moving about. There you go. You can just see them. So, Malik, I think that is what we saw. You and me both. I think that's what we caught out of the corner, or the movement that we caught out of the corner of our eye. Let's see how this interaction goes. Now, Elaine, you were wondering about why the zebra always follow the wildebeest, and you are absolutely right. They are very, very frequently seen together. And we're going to see that more and more just as a consequence of the fact that there's limited water and therefore limited places for the animals to go when they need a drink. But there's quite a special relationship between wildebeest and zebra, just because the wildebeest and the zebra tend to enjoy the same types of grasses. I am generalizing a little bit because this could apply to any of the animals. It doesn't have to be zebra and wildebeest, but you very commonly see the zebra and the wildebeest feeding together. And it's mainly a product of the fact that many eyes make for increased safety. But there's also the fact that zebra utilize... Oh, panic. Calm down. It's just us. It's also the fact that the zebra and the wildebeest utilize different parts of the same grasses. And it's a product of evolution out here that's connected to the grasses. And grasses, of course, are successful because they are meant to be fed on. They are adapted to be fed on. And the zebra generally targets the slightly higher up the stem, whilst the wildebeest, with their nimble lips, tend to go down towards the shoots closer to the soil. Now, there's a difference in the way they feed, but it's quite nice to have a lawnmower to sort of clear the way and the wildebeest can really tuck into the good stuff. And with their different digestive systems, they can utilize different things. What's interesting about that is that for two animals that are basically the same size, I say basically, you can see the zebra's fractionally bigger than a wildebeest, and of course much rounder due to all of the gases of its digestive system. But a zebra, the two on the right, they would have to eat about double what a wildebeest would have to eat in order to sustain their body mass. And that's just because their digestive systems are relatively inefficient. All happening in the intestines. That's why they're so round, of course, and quite flatulent in general, which can make for some very funny sightings, especially if you've got kids on the back. It's always fun to show them a zebra expelling the products of its digestion. But yes, their digestive system is more inefficient than that of the wildebeest. Oh, there's our buffalo. Sorry, distraction. I've been trying to work out where that buffalo herd has gone. Turns out they're all the way on Mala Mala, so we'll leave them be for now. How on earth did they manage to get there without me seeing where their tracks crossed? I was expecting them to be far further over. Here you go. Malik, that might also have been the movement that we saw. They don't look terribly stressed or panicked. I think it's unlikely that there are predators around that drainage line. It's always possible, of course. Oh, wildebeest. They're buffalo. Still buffalo. Unless you know something I don't. Hopefully you were able to hear that. I was laughing at the half-hearted call that he made at the end there. It's sort of like he ran out of steam and suddenly realized that he was alarm calling it at buffalo. It's quite impressive eyesight. Don't mess with an antelope. They might not have the best eyesight in the world, but they can certainly pick up on movement, which makes sense considering that they are the product of years and years of evolution being hunted. But back to the zebra and the wildebeest, two very different animals, but very much enjoying the same habitat. We're looking at the moment at the calves of a blue wildebeest, but Positive Squirrel, you were wondering if we ever see the black wildebeest in this particular area. And the answer is no, we don't. The black wildebeest is pretty much exclusive to the high-veld areas. Very, very similar, occupies a very similar niche to the blue wildebeest. And they do, in very small, very limited areas, overlap in terms of their habitat and their niches. But they prefer the high-veld, and they like those big open grazing areas of an area called the Free State in South Africa. Now, what I was trying to do was show you a picture, but unfortunately it appears as though Brent has managed to nick my mammal book, I think. Certainly looking that way from where I'm sitting. Yes, I think he's got my mammal book somewhere with him in the car. So maybe if we ask nicely, Brent can show you a picture of what a black wildebeest versus a blue wildebeest looks like. But in essence, very different shape to the horns, slightly darker in color and also slightly bulkier, in my opinion, stockier. Far less common than the blue wildebeest. Very pretty in the morning sun. For them, unlike the impala, the rutting season is pretty much almost over. Oh, that's quite disappointing. Apparently Brent doesn't have my mammal book, which begs the question, who does? I wonder. I know I left it in the box when I went on holiday, or when I went to the UK. Anyway, we'll address that at a different... we'll leave that for a conversation after the drive. See if I can find it. There you go. females having a bit of a spar. That's what I enjoy about wildebeest, is they can be so highly entertaining. You often see the females fight with each other, not overly aggressively, not like a male would for access to territory, but they do occasionally butt heads. And I've also seen them mock mount before, a display of dominance to each other. Yes, you have a good dig there, little one. Oh, we're going to have a dust bath. I think especially I have a soft spot for wildebeest after spending a good 9 hours with them before witnessing the live birth that we saw at the beginning of the year with Andrew. That was incredible to witness. Oh, really getting seriously into it now. Down on the ground for a bit of additional leverage. They're both down now. The calves have decided that that's exactly where they want to sleep. And done. Finished with their game. And the wildebeest calves taking advantage of the sun that's started to peek out over the horizon properly now. And I'm feeling exactly the same way as they are. I'm really enjoying this moment to just sit nice and still and quiet in the sun, defrosting the extremities a little bit. They're still doing a tremendous amount of growing, so they still need lots and lots of rest when compared to the adults. Now, Shell, you were wondering why I said it's not possible for them to be pregnant. You raise a good point. I should not have perhaps phrased it in that manner, since nothing out here is impossible. But yes, they do have a very specific, like the impala, they do have a very specific breeding season. And probably what I should have said is that if they are pregnant, it's extremely early stages. Wildebeest and impala share a very similar rutting period. Wildebeest have been rutting during the end of April towards the beginning of May. They've slowed down considerably. Their rutting season is not quite as extended as that of the impala. But yes, they do have quite a specific breeding season, and then they give birth around the end of December and the beginning of January. And usually within very close, you can see, Shell, if you look at the ages of the calves, you can see how close together they must have been born. They're all of a very, very similar size. There's no real in-between of different ages. So yes, they do have a specific season. That being said, you never ever know. Stranger things have happened, and I can almost guarantee that it would not be unrecorded to have a birth at some weird time of year. The animals don't really read the textbooks. Right, I've been distracted from my female leopard search. I'm going to head back to where I last saw her tracks. I wanted to check that she hadn't popped out here, but she hasn't. I'm going to go back, go for a little bit of a walk. While I do, let's head across to another walk.
Alright, so I'm not going to speak very loud because unlike the wildebeest that you were looking at with Jamie, who are quite used to cars, wildebeest react very differently to people on foot. They're incredibly vigilant animals, and one of the best ways to practice stalking animals is to practice on animals like this that are not that dangerous. And by dangerous I mean that's not going to run away or run at you and come and step on your head if you were to make a mistake. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and sneak up to these wildebeest and show you how difficult it can be to actually get close to animals like this. I'm going to use all the cover that I can, but as you can see it's quite sparse, but I'm going to try. And Dave's going to try and follow me we're going to see how close we can get to these wildebeest before they know we're here. And I'm doing this because I need to practice. Am I feeling the wind on my skin? Am I watching where I put my feet? Am I stepping carefully? Am I looking out for branches and sticks? Am I using cover? And it's best to practice on these guys. So it's a bit of a game, but let's try. And what you got to try and do is look. One has given an alarm call already, but it's okay. The rest haven't seen us. We've got Kudu's alarm calling. Come and have a look here. We've got one wildebeest looking at us. Have a look there. That's one wildebeest that's seen Dave and I. Doesn't really know we're here. Looking at us, I think he can see Dave's aerial. Some kudu giving an alarm call off to our right hand side, which I think we need to go and have a look and see. So, wow, playing with these wildebeest has been fun. That kudu that's giving an alarm call there means that there might be a predator there. I think it would be best if we don't disturb these wildebeest too much. And then go and investigate this kudu. Wow, while we do that, we're going to link you through to Brent. I'll catch up with you in a bit with some news, hopefully.
Look, it's like a jackal morning. We've just found this jackal basking in the sun. Oh, I'm having a scratch. Another side-striped jackal. This is one of the, I think we saw 6 at one stage here, or 5 at least. A side-striped jackal on the southern edge of the Arathusa airstrip. It looked like this particular individual was really enjoying the sunshine. I'm trying to see where the other is. It's often when you see one, you'll see the other. As it warms up, and the jackal's warmed up, and it's going to try to find some shade now. So they did have a den around here in one of the termite mounds. Here we go. Hi Sarah in Utah. I'm very happy to be the one to show you jackal for the first time, Sarah. So this is Sarah's first jackal. She says this has absolutely made her night. Well, we're going to try and get another view and also try to see where possibly the second jackal is. So they live in pairs. Where's it gone? Chagas, where did you go? Now the main the main reason we've come here to the Arathusa airstrip was I was actually coming to look for secretary birds again. I'm always happy to have a look at one of my favorite little canids. We are going to go now, try and get another view, and then we're going to head west along the airstrip and see if we can find those secretary birds. Those secretary birds, there were a pair of them yesterday. So I know where they nest. Unfortunately, it is not in the northern Sabi Sands. They nest on Rondolozi, which is not too far from us here. Doing exactly as we predicted, heading for a bit of shade. Oh, no, we've got a bit of a fright. Sorry, jaggalas. And this is quite a relaxed one. and shape. Let's leave the jackal and see if we can find a secretary bird on the Arethusa airstrip. So I had a chat to Ryan, who's the head ranger at Arethusa last night, and he says they've been around the secretary birds for about 3 days. Starting to warm up nicely. A bit jealous of the jackal who's just been lying there in the sun enjoying. So the last update on Shadow and Cub is that unfortunately they headed south further into Hoffman's, and it looks like they were chased by elephants last night. So from the spot where they were, and that's the reason they went south. And no one has managed to find her yet this morning. So Carl's wondering, are Shadow's cubs old enough to be able to climb trees? They most certainly are, Carl. They're about 3 months old now, so definitely able to climb trees. So we are heading into the dry season, and we have had a minuscule amount of rain this year. And Casey's wondering, will this area be better or worse for the animals? Casey, I assume you're talking about the Arethusa airstrip. Well, there's a little bit of grass left, so normally you'd find wildebeest and stuff here, and the grass would last a bit longer. So it is going to be a bit tough for the animals, but it doesn't matter where they are, it's going to be tough this year. But as winter comes, I think since they've tarred the Arethusa airstrip, we might start seeing a phenomenon that we used to see at Singita and Londolozi, and that is lions and tar airstrips, especially in the evening, because the tarmac holds the warmth for longer. You quite often can find a lion lying enjoying the warm ground of the tarmac, and it sort of lasts till quite late in the evening, 10 o'clock or so. So the lions often can be found sleeping on the airstrips. Because the one nice thing about winter is normally we have these beautiful clear days. So during the day it warms up nicely, and there's certain spots like an airstrip that hold heat that will attract the lions after dark. Unfortunately, no secretary birds yet this morning, but some impalas. Siberia is wondering, how tall do secretary birds get? Well, for a bird, very tall, not quite as tall as an ostrich, of course. They probably get to about 1.5 meters in length or in height. Hello, MPs. It's amazing how quickly these impala grow. And then we can have a look. That's one of this year's babies, and you can see his little horns sticking up. And in Afrikaans, those little guys are referred to as pen corps. Actually pen heads. It looks like there's two pens sticking out of the top of their skull. Right, now, one of the reasons impala are such successful animals is their ability to adapt and not stuck on one food source. So they'll eat grass when it's available, but they'll also browse. It's one of the reasons they are the most numerous antelope south of the Sahara. They are exquisite. Oh, there we go, a little bit of grooming between the two young boys. Very, very beautiful and often underrated animal to see on safaris. Lynn's wondering, where do secretary birds nest? They nest in trees, Lynn. Particularly, they're quite fond of big acacia tortilis or flat-crowned acacias, and they build their nests right on top. They sometimes take over other raptors' nests. I have seen them kick out Wahlberg's eagles out of their nest, but normally they do have a nest that they've sort of taken over, but they will utilize that same nest year after year. So we're going to head down towards the Safari Donga. Now, a donga is a little river system, and it's called Safari Donga because Arathusa, which we're on, the property itself is actually called Arathusa Safari. So that is what the donga that runs to the Arathusa Dam is called the Safari Donga, or the Safari drainage line. And it's always a good spot to go check for certain things. And I am hoping with all that elephant activity that maybe they chased Shadow further to the west. And Shadow has, over her previous litters of cubs, regularly kept them in this Safari Donga or Safari river system. We're going to go just have a little gander. We haven't had any tracks or any luck, but it's worth taking a look. So while we go peruse our way through the Safari drainage system, let's go back to Steph, who's on Shanks pony.
Alright, so you're catching up with us while we have just arrived at the area where those kudu were giving their alarm calls. It's still difficult for us to see exactly what it is. We haven't found any fresh tracks. The freshest tracks that I've found so far have been for hyena. But we are keeping quite quiet. We are moving basically from shadow spot to shadow spot. And the reason for that is because we want to try and stay as hidden as we can. Something has been moving here that alarmed those kudu greatly. So what I'm doing now is I'm just scanning everywhere I can to see what we can see. So what I'm looking for, I'm listening for more alarm calls. I'm listening for birds giving alarm calls. I'm listening for squirrels giving alarm calls. Smaller animals around here. Let's go and have a look. Here's a road. It's a very good place to have a look for tracks. Still nothing that fresh at the moment. So what we're going to do is, I think, Let's go to the next road. It's not too far away. We've got Philemon's dip cut line quite close to here. And potentially something was coming down Philemon's dip cut line. The kudu came from this area. They were running from my left to my right. Sort of, we're hoping to bisect their trail. And while we're doing that, hopefully we can get ourselves a track of something here. Dave just trying to get around, get onto my better side. If there is such a thing. Alright. I'm expecting us to find something like a leopard here. Could you alarm call quite heavily for things like lion? Have a look here. So here we found a track. It's the track of a hyena. This one here. It's the back of the pad. That's the front of the pad. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes with claws. And that very funny shape. So hyena, I'm just going to take some time to listen while we're doing this. Hyena have a sloped planter's pad. So if I put a piece of grass on the back of the pad and I put another piece of grass in the direction of travel, you'll see that it's at an angle. See that angle there? With a lion or a leopard, it would be exactly perpendicular to one another. And that isn't. That's at an angle. So that is hyena. And now that I'd be able to tell as hyena if I didn't see the claw marks. Quite evidently a claw mark there. And then this half moon shaped toe. The outer toe of the hyena. Half moon shaped. So I don't think that those kudu would have alarm called for this hyena. They may have, but I don't think so. It's fresh enough to have been that. Let's go and have a look here. See what we can find. It's always a Oh, Kaliali has just asked me a good question. What is the meaning of the word safari? Or the origin, of the word safari? That's a very good question. I don't actually know. I'm actually going to throw that straight back at you and see, please help me, help the rest of our viewers find the answer to that question. It's very easy to send us your answers. You can email it to questions@wildearth.tv or use the Twitter handle, the hashtag Safari Live, I think on Twitter is exactly what it is. Send it through, the ladies in FC, or send it to me and I'll share it with everyone. I don't actually know the answer to that question. I've just always called it a safari. Yeah, good one. Alright, let's have a look here again. And see what I can see. So now, what I'm looking at, or looking for at least, is tracks of what could have given those kudu such a big fright. We're right where I'm expecting to find those kudu tracks. What I want to do is almost backtrack the kudu. But we've got some alarm calls coming from here. Let's go and have a look. Now, it's never a good thing to just run into a place like this. It's always good just to watch. But we've got alarm calls. There's lots of activity. And by alarm call, I'm talking about alarm calls of birds. Lots of activity here. Now there is water close by, and leopard and lion will drink if water's there. They don't need water, but they will drink if water's there. There's water off, you can see birds are talking. Have a look here. Something's going on here. There's a bit of energy over here. We've got lots of birds. We've got lots of birds in trees. Just listen to that. birds that have lifted up off the ground and are sitting a bit higher. Now I'm being a bit quiet, excuse me. I should have just... There's a squirrel. So we've got a squirrel there. Now that squirrel is going to aid us finding that leopard, if there is a leopard here. That squirrel is getting off the ground, lifting up. It's now just gone onto the tree. That squirrel's also got alarmed, just like what we are. We've got hornbills that are giving us the alarm call. So we've got hornbills. I can hear, it sounds like some other type of shrike that's here. Long-tailed shrike as well. We've got some birch starlings. So everything here is just active. I don't know, there's something for me. Leopard, to me, that's what it's saying. Leopard or serval. So let's just take a quick walk. We're walking now to some pretty thick bush, so it's always a good thing just to keep your eyes just scanning totally, and we'll see what exactly is causing this consternation here. Started off with a kudu, now we've got alarm calls of birds everywhere. No squirrels just yet. Still squirrels alarm calling. Alright, let's carry on going. Lots of birds everywhere. Now, I'm picking a route which is fairly open, but still allows whatever's in this cover to feel safe. What I don't want to do is chase whatever's in here out. Looking for some tracks. I still only see these hyena tracks. Still just seeing hyena tracks here. Wild dog tracks. Ah, here we go. So the very sharp eyes of Hubert has picked up the tracks of a female leopard. Hubert is standing just behind Dave to give Dave a hand through all the rough patches. Has just picked out the fresh tracks of a female leopard going in exactly the direction that these alarm calls are coming from. So good. Let's go back up here. I think she's crossed this way. We're not too far away. I actually think this leopard is right here, to be quite honest. It's a squirrel. I think let's just give one more bash at here at the pump house and see if she didn't go down and drink some water. The female leopard is right here. Now, so difficult to try and find these cats. They're just so secretive. My feeling is that this leopard has come through here, has just come through here, created a bit of a stir amongst these birds and scared those kudu away from here. This is just hyena tracks. Let's go and see. With us moving through here, could quite easily have spooked her. Leopard don't enjoy people on foot. We obviously do see them on foot from time to time, and it's such a special thing to see, but they're quite easily spooked with people on foot. I'm just going to take it easy here. This is This is exactly where those birds were making the alarm call, and what we've got here is we've got some water. Some elephants have been digging for water, and if there's water here, there's a good chance that she may have come and drunk a bit too. Just busy looking for some. That's all diggings of elephant, can you believe it? They've got squirrels and everything going, giving some alarm calls here. It's actually quite weird. Can I give you a hand down here, Dave? Huh? You're going to be alright. No surface water here. Got some squirrels giving an alarm call. Can't find the tracks leading out of here. Actually pretty certain that there is something here. Just sit and listen for a bit. In this tree we've got a squirrel. You can almost see its silhouette there of its tail. Perhaps just hear them chirping away. We're going to try and see if we can show it to you on a camera. A bird that's just come down there, starling, come off the floor. There's a squirrel there on the branch there. And they are upset. They're not giving a full-blown alarm call, but they are giving one. Look at that squirrel. You can just see that tail, quite agitated. Let's see if he comes through. We've now lost him. He's gone around the other side over there. Let's just give a bit of a listen over here. Something happening, we don't know what. Right. And as exciting as what that is, I think we're going to go to Brent. We're going to stick our faces into some tight spots here and see if we can pick up those tracks again.
So we've checked the whole of the safari donga system. Unfortunately, the only tracks we found were old male tracks. So them and I are heading back towards Juma now to go check an area we haven't checked yet around Treehouse Dam and Shabam. So who knows, maybe Queen Karula, who they haven't managed to find in the east this morning, had finished her impala, and now that it's warmer, has moved across to Juma. But we'll go have a look and see if we find anything. I won't lie, we are grasping at straws, so there's spider webs on the lens. But, as I say, I am the eternal optimist. I was really hoping Shadow was going to move those cubs into that area. And she used to leave her last cub in this area a lot, but I think those elephants pushed her to the south. This is where she was last night. Also, we might head down towards Weeder's Nest. Those were the baboon tracks we're heading. It's always nice to see another primate, especially climbing a tree. Warmed up nicely now. Still not a cloud in the sky, and that's very typical weather for low-felt winters. Although we complain about it being bitterly cold in the morning, it probably doesn't get much colder than about 7 degrees Celsius, which is I think around 50 odd Fahrenheit. I think the coldest we got last year was 6 or 7, but the days are glorious. Warms up sort of mid to high 20s during the day. So around high 70s. But for us, of course, we're used to that blistering heat. What we perceive to be cold and what is actually cold are two different things. So we're going to head now down towards the treehouse waterhole and see what's happening there. While we do that, let's go to Jamie, who's got a bird of prey.
Steph and myself both tracking female leopards. I got really excited. I was off the vehicle wandering about looking at her footprints, and I heard the calls of the go-away birds, the quack sound that they make when something has disturbed them. Obviously I got very excited until I spotted this chap, and he's obviously the reason behind their distress. So not our leopard, but a nice find nevertheless. Initially I thought it was a tawny eagle, but I've had another look, and I know it's difficult for you to see, but there's a lot of white on this bird, a great deal of it, and it's a juvenile of some description. I suspect it might be a juvenile African hawk eagle, having seen that pair earlier. He's got white all across the top of his head and underneath his body. And the juveniles of the raptor family can be somewhat tricky in terms of identifying them. They all take on quite a drab brown color. They don't have the adult size or plumage that they will get in the next 6 to 8 years. It takes a long time for an eagle to grow up. Here's an eagle. Feathers all the way down to the legs. It's difficult for you to see just because of the distance. I can't get any closer to him. Oh, not our leopard, but at least we have discovered the reason behind the alarm calls. And I think what we'll do, I've done a big circuit of the block. I can't quite find where she went off the road. I know she's gone off the road, I just can't find exactly where. Particularly in this fine soil. It's fine, but it's quite hard. So she's sort of in places barely leaving, but the barest hint of a trace of a footprint, which as the light gets higher and higher, or as the sun gets higher and higher, and the light gets more tricky to track in. So I'm going to take a chance, now that we've checked here, and she hasn't come through this way, we're going to take a chance and go back the other way and loop the block there. Of course, it didn't help that I drove over some of the tracks towards the end. Just while I was chatting to you guys, I thought she'd gone off sooner than she had. So, she's somewhere in this region. From what I've learnt and from what I can tell, Nkanyeni's territory goes around Cheetah Plains into the Kruger National Park and north towards Nkoro, that general area. So and I know that she's been found regularly on Nkoro and that she denned around Nkoro when the cubs were a little bit younger. I'm going to try and factor that into the guesswork that this tracking exercise has become, and see if she isn't going to pop out somewhere close to the Nkoro boundary. It's but a pure guess, but it may well pay off. The last track I had for her was very close to this junction, and her tracks were starting to veer to the north. I'm hoping that she might emerge somewhere there. Now Cheetah Plains seems to be perfect leopard territory, whilst the general game, there's not that many general game species at the moment, although that will change as the drought continues. But there are lots and lots of little duiker and steenbok, which is of course one of the leopard's favorite food. They're just the right size to provide enough nutrition and at the same time not be too much of a hassle to hunt, or at least too much of a risk to hunt. It's not like hunting a warthog that is capable of doing the leopard some serious damage. Okay, let me think this through. Yeah. Okay, let's try here. Always check very carefully in the trees, just in case. You never know. She might be hiding in plain sight in this long-tailed cassia. I don't think so though. No leopard there, Jean-Andre? Not this morning. If I were a leopard, that's where I would be. Maybe not. On cool winter's mornings like this morning, the leopards are usually mobile far longer into the morning. They don't overheat as quickly. The same goes for lions, but particularly leopards. They're on the move, which sometimes makes tracking them and following them a little bit more tricky because they don't go and lie down. One very frightened steenbok just went sprinting past. I was out on foot, tracking, listening carefully, trying to see if I couldn't figure out where this lovely leopard has gone. But Philip, you were wondering, what does a leopard do when it sees people on foot? No, think, Jamie. Why would she walk all the way down the road and then turn back on herself? She wouldn't. She definitely wouldn't. Sorry, Philip, I'll be with you in one moment. Just giving myself a stern lecture here. Stern talking to. Because it doesn't make sense for an animal to backtrack on herself, particularly when she was walking so directly east. So what do leopards do when they see people on foot? It depends. It depends on the distance that you are from the animal. It depends on what the animal's doing at the time. And then, of course, it depends on the individual characters of the leopard. So, generally, my experience with leopards is... I've got her tracks here. She is coming along here. Is that they prefer to be, if they think they can get away with it, they prefer to be unseen. So what they'll do is, even if you're walking really close to them, but they don't think that you've seen them, if you haven't looked directly at them, then they will go straight flat down and they will rely very much on their camouflage and their their secrecy and their silence. Now that is their preferred method of responding to a person on foot. Then you get the different scenarios where, for example, you've bumped a leopard in a very closed quarter and it feels uncomfortable, it feels trapped. And then generally what happens is you get an explosion of sound and growling and speed and the flash of movement, and then just like that, it's done. It's over. Leopard's past you. I've heard so many stories, I've experienced it myself as well. Situations where somebody has disturbed a leopard, flushed a leopard, with a whole group of guests walking behind them, and the leopard is through the guests and past and out the other side before they've even had time to register what's happened. Bearing in mind, of course, a leopard, when it wants to, can cover 22 meters, which is close to 60 feet, in a second. That kind of speed is tremendous. Then you get wonderful leopards like Karula, the Queen of Djuma, who is an absolute pleasure to walk on foot. She doesn't hide away. She actually couldn't care less. Oh, sorry, Jean-Andre. Let's see if we can't get it further ahead. Jean-Andre spotted a roller with something in its beak. Oh, I know that light's very tricky. What have you got there? Well done, Jean-Andre. I know the light's a bit tricky. I think if I go any further forward, it's going to fly away. It's already thinking about flying away. It's got some kind of, it looks like a cricket or a grasshopper. Oh, yes, that looks like a grasshopper. Quite a big meal. A mouthful, to say the least. Well done, Jean-Andre. Thank you. And struggling to get it at the right angle to swallow it. And with those spurred legs... Oh, I don't think it was fully dead there. Bit of a struggle. The lilac-breasted roller beating it against the side of the tree. Bearing in mind... Sure. Oopsie! Oh no! Oh dear! Half the kill disappeared down to the bottom, the base of the tree. Let's see how this lilac-breasted roller handles this. It's just lost half of it. Saw that sideways turn of the head, so it knows that it's there. Oh, it's been stolen. It has been thieved. There's another lilac-breasted roller that just shot in and grabbed it. Disappeared behind there somewhere. No, I can't, unfortunately. I can hear it hitting it on the side of the tree, but I can't see it. Let's try going backwards a little bit. That might help. Oh, you snooze, you lose out here. There we go. Oh, that's going to be tricky.
Yep.
Thank you. And there you have the thief himself or herself, taking advantage of the scraps or the remains of the grasshopper from earlier. Oh. And gone. Very fierce hunters, lilac-breasted rollers. Those powerful beaks mean that they can tackle incredibly large prey, but then of course they can't chew it with that beak. So the thrashing not only helps to subdue the prey, but also helps to break it apart. But I don't think it was the fully intended consequence that played out there. Okay. I've still got to track, so I'm going to keep looking for our lovely leopard. While I do, let's find out how Steph's search is going.
Now, I must be honest, the tracks that we found there were not that fresh. They looked fresh in the sand, but they weren't that fresh, and I think we were being hoodwinked by the squirrels and the birds, and I still think that there's something in this area. Definitely something gave kudu a fright, definitely something alarmed the birds, but nothing that we could find on foot. So what I've done is I've asked Brent to come and give us a hand. As you all know, Brent is the prime leopard spotter of all time, and he's got Viam on the back of his car with him, another great pair of eyes. So we've left them to carry on looking for this leopard, and we want to show you this. This is my favorite sort of thing, is to bring out the small things in the bush. This is what I love doing for you. And this might at first glance look like a very weird bird has tried to make a nest in this particular tree, but in actual fact this is a hippo's signpost. Now, hippo belong to a group of animals called Hippomorpha, and the hippomorphs include animals like dugongs and manatees, and basically they are porpoises or whales that have evolved to live in estuaries. Hippos are now similar to that. They've evolved to live in river systems, but because they are basically marine animals that have evolved into river systems and are so closely tied to their ancestry, hippos don't have any endocrine, or I think it's actually exocrine glands. In other words, glands that are on the outside of their skin that they can use to mark territory. We've all watched how leopard hug bushes and will use urine spraying, and I'm sure Jamie's told you about the story of the wildebeest and their scent glands between their toes. You have hyenas that anal paste all the time. You've got mongoose or civets at least, that use civetries with glands all over their bodies. Hippos don't have any of that. What hippos do is they use their dung and their feces and their urine to mark a signpost like this. So what's happened is a hippo's come walking down this pathway. He's reversed himself up to this bush, pretty similar to what I'm doing now, and then he defecates and he flaps his tail. They've got a very paddle-like tail. They flap their tail, and this will spray dung all over a bush like this. And it never fails to amaze me how quickly and how absolutely hippo will stop and will come and smell these bushes. They never stop. Even youngsters really take interest in what is being said here. Now, of course, the thing that I want to say is my nose good enough to actually smell anything here? It definitely fills your nasal cavity. It's a musty smell. It has it's a grassy smell, although it's definitely got something else in. I can't tell if this hippo was anyone specific. I can't tell whether it's male or female. I can't tell what reproductive status, if it was a female. This is in, all that stuff is inside this message board here. My nose, as big as what it is, cannot tell one thing from another. I'm just smelling some grass and some sedge that the hippo's been eating for dinner. And that's that. But let's have a look here. Something caught my eye while I was busy tearing up smelling that hippo dung over there, and that's one of these bushes here. This is a rus, spelt R-H-U-S, and on these russes we have been finding flea beetles. Now James and I have been very intrigued by flea beetles because, for one, I've been working in this area for close on 2 decades, and believe it or not, this was the first season that I actually saw one of these flea beetles. And two, is that these flea beetles are used, or are used by bushmen, and Brent talks a lot about the prehistory of this place, and the bushmen that used to live here hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of years ago used to dig out the larvae of this little beetle. And the larvae is buried in the sand beneath our feet, buried about a foot deep, this deep, in a little hard egg casing, and there'll be a little grub inside there, and these bushmen used to collect that little grub, dig in the sand, collect that little grub, and then squeeze that grub onto their arrow. And that, when they used to shoot their arrow into an animal, into the cheek or the neck of that animal, used to poison them, and eventually that animal would die, and that's how the bushmen used to feed themselves. So making their arrows, their tiny reed arrows, and the bushman's arrow is no longer than this, a foot, and they shoot it into the neck or into the cheek, not into the heart lung area which you'd normally shoot an animal in, but into the cheek or into the neck, and then they'd use these very virulent toxins gathered from these beetles to bring food for their families. What I want to try and do is actually show you one of these beetles. Now, of course, because it's me and because I want to show you one of these beetles, there won't be a single one on this bush, but I'm hoping... Here we go, Dave. Here's a flea beetle. Let me get a piece of grass so that I can show you. So Dave, one is sitting right there. Inside there, you might have to come up and over. Can you see him? So this very, very innocent looking beetle at the end of my grass. Might have to come from the top there, Dave. Well, let me see if I can move it a little bit. This very innocent looking beetle, there he is there,
Gotcha.
is called a flea beetle. And that flea beetle will lay an egg in the sand. That egg will have a little grub in it, a little worm, their larvae. That larvae of something that's so small can kill a buffalo in about 40 minutes. A buffalo weighs 2,000 pounds. Can you believe it, eh? Something so small is so toxic. I just find it absolutely incredible. And what blows my mind more than anything else really is the fact that how did people know that? I mean, we've walked past, I don't know, 1,000 beetles this morning, and it's not even a year that has a lot of beetles in it, and yet one beetle out of all those thousands has this use that kept people living here for years and generations and tens of thousands of years. And it's just fascinating for me, these little things. I'm glad that we got to show you that. I mean, it's the end of the season now. I wasn't expecting it to actually be here. Not a lot of these bushes have it, but a very good question has come through that said, what happens if we had to ingest that poison? Now, ingesting poison and having it injected into you are two ways that you can basically poison yourself. This particular poison, I think you can eat it, but you can't have it injected into you. It needs to be introduced into either your lymphatic system or your blood system through an injury. I think very similar to the pufferfish, you can actually take this grub, you could probably eat it, and barring the fact that you don't have any ulcers in your mouth or in your throat or in your stomach, I actually think that your digestive system will break down this particular protein. I've only ever heard of this particular poison being used when it is injected into you, so i.e. through a scratch, a scrape, or through an arrow in the case of the bushman. Not the case for some of the poisonous plants that we get out of here. Some of the poisonous plants you just put in your mouth, some of the fungus you can put in your mouth, you can poison your way through ingestion. In other words, it gets basically taken up in your system. Now, I've just heard a whistle from Hubert. He's busy looking for... Now you heard me whistle just in answer to Hubert. He's acting as our security basically. We need a 3-man team on walk, and that's because quite often myself and Dave are so engaged with you that it becomes quite difficult for us to keep a good situational awareness, is what they say out here. Now Hubert has been walking around trying to find where this female leopard has been walking. He's whistled, and that can only mean one thing. He's found some tracks of this leopard. Well, that's at least what I'm hoping it's going to be anyway. So let's go and see if we can find him. He's just a little bit up here. I keep on getting distracted by all these little things, and I can see the butterflies are starting to fly around. You'll notice that potentially, well, we can show you, not really even, there's just one flitting around out there. I think the butterfly, not the butterflies, are getting. But anyway, let's go and see if we can carry on. Sorry, I didn't mean to sell you down. That voyage of discovery that was fruitless. Now, unlike friends of mine, I haven't developed the ability to whistle like one of the trackers out here. They can really pick up some big whistles. So James and Mareka have actually answered the unanswerable question that safari. Remember, we needed to give an answer as to what or where the word safari comes from. James and Mareka have kindly written in, thank you very, very much for doing that, by the way, and said that it's a Swahili word for journey. And that would make sense. East Africa opened up to safaris, especially European and North American safari goers, way, way before Southern Africa opened up to safari goers. In other words, paying clients. East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, the Masai Mara, the Serengeti, that is where the term safari was coined. I'm almost convinced, because that was where safaris first happened. And the local group of indigenous people there are called the Maasai, and the Maasai speak a language called Swahili, a very beautiful language. And that is where the word safari comes from. How nice is that? So thank you very much. That is actually a very, very good thing. And that's how we teach each other out here, actually. Sharing information. Alright, so we're going to go and look for Hubert. And while we're doing that, we're going to give you over to Brent, who's probably got an update on what he's doing for you.
Hello, mister. So we are checking this area where Steph had the leopard tracks, and we've just come across an ellie bull. And it looks like the way he's smelling, he might be trying to track a breeding herd. Slowly walking down the road, a youngish bull, only late 20s, maybe early 30s. And look at him, he's heading down the road. We're going to try to catch up with him now. Slowly as he meanders down the road. Maybe he'll lead us to a nice big breeding herd. Now, elephants, that slow sort of amble, it's a lot quicker than you think, and they can cover incredible amounts of distance in a day. Sniffing, you can see how he's curling his trunk, trying to smell. We're going to stick with this ellie, but Steph's got something incredible, a hunt to show you on bush.
So it's not a leopard killing an impala, but it's a spider killing a grasshopper. And have a look at that. A grasshopper's landed in the spider's web, and have a look at what she's doing. Continuously stabbing it with her fangs, incapacitating that grasshopper. You can see the grasshopper's movements are getting slower and slower as that venom takes effect. Have a look at that. Now she's busy. She's canopied herself over it, holding it with her front legs. There we go, another environment. Wow, she keeps on stabbing this grasshopper. Have a look at that. She's got the perfect web for catching a grasshopper. Grasshopper mistimed his jump. She's now grabbed him. Have a look at what, is she holding him with a leg there, Dave, or what she's holding him with? So tough to see. I'm going to have to get a little bit closer there. Oh, she's bitten the grasshopper on a leg, so she's actually holding the grasshopper by one of the back legs. How epic is that? And as you can see, that venom that she has slowed that grasshopper down very, very quickly. And that is how keyed spider venom is to this particular type of prey. This particular spider does hunt grasshoppers, and you can see repeatedly stabbing with her fangs, injecting venom, has very, very quickly incapacitated this grasshopper. And now she's holding onto him just so that he can't get away. Got her legs all around him, and what she's going to wait for is that grasshopper to be completely immobile. He can still hurt her with a powerful kick. She's soft-bodied. He's got quite a hard exoskeleton. And then she'll probably wrap him up in some silk to stop those legs flailing about, and she'll let her venom take over. Twofold thing. One, the venom incapacitates that grasshopper. Secondly, it is actually starting the digestive process. So what it'll do is it'll start to liquefy the inside of that grasshopper. And when it's completely liquefied, she'll then suck out all the juicy juices. And that's how she gets her nourishment. And I'm very glad for her shame. She's in a particularly bare patch of vegetation, not many grasshoppers around here. In actual fact, I can't see any discarded remnants of grasshoppers. I don't know when last the spider ate. But have a look at that. Yes, we couldn't have asked for a better grandstand stand there. I can't believe she's actually holding on to his kicking leg. I wonder if that's actually by design. In other words, she's taken out one of the grasshopper's weapons and means of escape, and she's holding on to it, pumping venom in there. Gee whiz, hey? What a sighting. Like I said, unfortunately not Karula killing an impala for us this morning on foot, but definitely something just as exciting, especially when we can get you as close as what we've got you. On this wonderful camera and this wonderful camera work that Dave's doing is putting us right in there, looking at this epic struggle going on there. I have actually seen a spider kicked to death by a grasshopper before. No less amazing than saying an impala stabbing a lioness to death with his horn. Some big struggle going on there. She's still got hold of that back leg. Grasshopper still trying to jump, although its movements are becoming a little bit more erratic. I think it's really just muscle memory and spasm here. You can see how wide she's placed her legs. She's really bracing herself against the web. She's still canopied over the grasshopper. There she goes. She's just let his leg go now. I think she knows that it's all over. Breakfast is secured. Yeah, definitely that grasshopper is not going anywhere at the moment. What's quite amazing is that she hasn't actually started to wrap it up with any silk. What's quite common with the orbweb spiders is that as soon as they envenomate something, they wrap up their prey with some silk. But I think what's happened here is because this grasshopper really can't go anywhere, it can't kick off the web, and it absolutely can't walk off the edge of the web, it's too sticky. She's just quite happy to stay out of range and not have to worry about it going anywhere, and so therefore she hasn't wrapped it up. Yeah, and X-Ranger just made a very nice observation in that she thought that spiders would bite and hold rather than do that stabbing motion that we watched there. X-Ranger, you're not wrong. There's a lot of spiders that do grab and hold, but in this particular case, the short stabbing, those quick stabbing motions. I mean, I'd love to know the fang arrangements of this fang. So you get side fangs, fangs that close towards one another from the side, and then you get down stabbing fangs, similar to what you'd find on tarantulas. And I think that this particular spider would have down stabbing fangs. There she went straight for the thoracic region of that grasshopper, straight into its soft underbelly. You saw she stabbed it again and again. Wow, look at the black stuff coming out the grasshopper's mouth. That's regurgitated food. That's a defense mechanism from that grasshopper. Wow, she stabbed it again. Now she's getting herself again out of the way. You can see she can pull herself down. She's now cleaning her legs. She got some of her silk stuck on her legs. Spiders are fastidious at keeping themselves clean, and it's one of the ways that they don't get stuck in their own webs. And you saw her just put her foot in her mouth and chew it clean. There she's doing it again, putting her foot in her mouth, chewing the web off. And there she's gone now again. I can actually see droplets of venom on the abdomen of that grasshopper. Dave doing a mighty effort here trying to keep it still. And there she's now holding it. So X-Ranger, you can see she's now holding that grasshopper in her chelicerae, in her fangs. Still amazing me that she's actually not at all wrapping up this grasshopper in silk. Now just holding it, you can see probably pumping in a little bit more venom. I don't actually know how much venom a spider can produce or how much that she'll inject into this grasshopper to start that digestive process. It can't be much. Venom is actually quite a complex protein, and therefore from a metabolic point of view actually quite difficult to produce. But I think that she's got herself a decent meal. I mean, that grasshopper is easily as big as what she is, easily. What a brilliant way to end today's walking safari, at least for myself and Dave and Hubert on foot. No luck with that female leopard, unfortunately for us. I'm sure Brent is trying his best to try and haul her out of the grass here for you, either for today, last couple of minutes of the show, or definitely for this afternoon. We've had this beautiful view, this hunting scene, successful spider hunt. She placed her web right, she was in the right place, right time, bang, and she got herself some breakfast. At least from my side, Dave, Hubert, we're going to thank you very, very much. We've come to the end of our walk. Thanks for your questions, thanks for all your answers, thanks for your help and your interest. We're going to send you over to Jamie and catch up with you tomorrow.
Oh, no sign of our leopard that we've been spending the morning tracking, so it's a mystery to be solved for the afternoon. But Jandre once again demonstrating his bird-finding skill. He spotted a batalier. Looks like it might be a juvenile. I couldn't really see in this particular light, but it looked like a brownish eagle. Oh, we'll have to return once again to Cheetah Plains and carry on. Unfortunately, I can't drive at the moment because the signal's a little bit shaky. Sorry, distracted by the birds that are fluttering about in that spike thorn bush. There's at least one black-crowned chagra, or brown-crowned chagra. Nope, they've all disappeared. So anyway, yes, a mystery to be solved, but it is lovely to be back once again in the wilds of the bush. I had a wonderful time in England, but nothing really compares to the home and the lifestyle that we have out here. Absolutely. I was very happy to return. So, as always, thank you for joining us, for sending through your questions and your comments. It's wonderful to have you on the back of the vehicle again. Thank you, Jandre, for your spotting. He agrees. He's also saying thank you. Thank you, Jandre, for spotting in camera work, and thank you to Jerry and to Rebecca in Final Control. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, and I'm going to send you back across to Brent for the last few moments. Bye-bye.
So the troublesome cats continue. I definitely thought having a shaved face was going to help. No, I'm only joking, not that superstitious. But at least on a positive note, there is a cat on the property. We're not sure who it is. Those leopard tracks Steph had in this area. So we've done a loop and another loop around here. So probably still in this block. And that's good for Jamie and Sam for the sunset safari. So there's possibly a kitty cat out there. It has been extremely pleasant morning, beautiful light, wonderful weather. I'm definitely going to go find myself a chair after drive and a cup of coffee and do what that jackal was doing. Sit in the sun and enjoy and thaw out from the early morning. So we were chatting about wild dogs quite a little bit earlier on the drive. James Richards wondering if there had been any possible update about that breakaway pack of females we saw with Jamie a while ago. As I said, I was chatting to my very good friend Grant, who is from Endangered Wildlife Trust, and he's head of the wild dogs in this area. And he thinks they're probably from the open pack. It got to 35 dogs and is now split. So there are 18 left in the main pack and the rest have split. And more than likely those 4 have come from the open pack, but there's been no further update on them. I don't think anyone's seen them since, and who knows where they might be. Seems like everything is just, ooh, there we go, flying in low and fast. There we go, Basilia. Oh, very nice, bank right at the right time and slow down right next to us. Such a beautiful bird of prey. Incredibly sharp eyesight. Come on, Basilia, find us a leopard kill in a tree. Off goes behind us. So they are related to the snake eagles. They are in fact a snake eagle. So they do actually even hunt snakes from time to time, not as regularly as the brown snake eagle, black-breasted snake eagle do, but they have been known to not only scavenge but hunt for themselves. And they can get going a bit earlier in the morning than the vultures. They're not as reliant on those thermals. You can see he flies low and fast, really incredible eyesight. Now, vultures will quite often catch those big thermals and go sit above and watch bateliers below them. And when a batelier goes down, the vultures quite often follow. Now, we're going to starting to get a lot more action around the Djuma Dam camp, so definitely keep watching it during the day. It's probably more than likely going to be some ellies coming down, maybe that herd of wildebeest that Steph was with earlier, their general direction, and apparently as we speak, there's a buffalo already making his way towards the Djuma Dam camp. So remember that there are animals live 24 hours a day here on WildEarth, between our different dam cams and of course the live safaris. We really encourage you to stick with us, and on the sunset safari, as I said, it'll be Jamie and Sam entertaining you. I will be doing some paperwork, unfortunately, but I'll be back first thing tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. From Vim and myself and the rest of the Safari Live team, We'll see you in a few hours. Adieu.